I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Kerry.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Terrell.
And we are going to present on our Walmart Diversity Handbook. So we'll start with the history of Walmart. Walmart was originally opened in 1962 by Mr. Sam Walton in Rogers, Arkansas. Since the beginning, Walmart believed in low prices and great customer service, and they really made these two things core in their business strategy. This business strategy was a novel idea at the time, so they got a lot of backlash from this business strategy. They didn't think that this would be one that worked with customers. And eventually the corporation grew, now including Sam's Club and a lot of the supercenters that you see. So the supercenters are relatively new. It normally was just a Walmart that's kind of like a bigger Dollar General, and so now it includes produce and all this stuff that we know is in Walmart, electronics, stuff like that. The current state of Walmart. So Walmart is operating 11,300 stores and many websites in more than 27 countries, employing 2.2 million associates, over half of which are employed in the United States. Their business model continues to do well, increasing their revenue yearly. So at the bottom of the slide, you can see that in 2017, their revenue, and this is in billions, was 485 billion, and then it grew to 500 billion, and then it grew to 514 billion. So they continue to do well, even with competitors like Amazon. Their gross profit also continued to grow, which is really good. So their business strategy. Walmart continues to offer everyday low prices, which is something that we all hear all the time, investing about $485 billion to keep their costs down. So keeping costs down is easier to do with Walmart's retail power opposed to the smaller companies. So Walmart actually does something where they don't have to pay for their products until they sell them. So it's really easy for them to keep costs down because they don't have to inflate their prices to cover the cost of products that they don't sell. And then they also have, since they are a retail powerhouse, they can negotiate lower prices with vendors. This focus on profit leads to a lack of attention to human resources, which is where we find our problems with what we're talking about in this diversity handbook.
And then we have the diversity strategy, which is having an office and chief director in charge of the diversity. That started in 2003, and this is the focal point for diversity actions. It should help develop enhancements for employment practices, supplier relationships, and community outreach programs. Training is at all levels. Another thing that they do is if the company officer doesn't complete their individual diversity goal, then they start losing their bonuses. It's crucial to bring your whole self to work. Inclusion being the key factor into building a business. And then charitable donations. To name a few, they are the Gathering of Nations, the Business of Women's Network, and the National Organization on Disabilities.
So the goal of the diversity strategy is mainly to try to include some of these minorities that you see on the bottom of the screen into executive and higher level positions. So as you see, as in general employees, 57% are women, and 84% are in executive management. For Black and African Americans, it's 21% and then 6.67%, and you can see all the numbers as you go down here. But so the main goal is to try to increase these numbers so that the general employees match more of the executive management percentages. So the
And so now I want to go into the cultural background and some issues that Walmart has had. So they claim to have no discrimination in hiring, promoting, all those decisions. But some issues that they've had are issues with low wages for employees, promotion of minorities, and the promotion of women. For the low promotion rates, they were specifically low for African Americans, Hispanics, and women. Now I'm going to go into a few of the legal incidents, just a few examples of what they have. In 2020, there was a lawsuit approved for $14 million. That was for 4,000 pregnant women who were denied the necessary conditions for their work. They've also had lawsuits stemming from locking up African American beauty products. In addition, there also have been lawsuits for firing of hundreds of African American employees due to their past criminal history. And these are just a few of the incidents. With Walmart being such a big retailer, they obviously have a lot.
Okay, so here we have our labor market discrepancies. Within the United States, there's a disproportionate unemployment rates when comparing minority races and those of the Caucasian descent. Typically, African Americans are unemployed at twice the rate of white Americans. Here are some unemployment rates by race from 2018. The overall unemployment rate for 2018 was 3.9%. And for white people, it was 3.7%. For Blacks, it was 6.5%. For Hispanics and Latinos, it was 4.7%. And for Native Americans, it was 6.6%. So you can see the discrepancy between those unemployment rates.
So some ideas for inclusion is training for the unconscious bias, which you would have a pre-test and that would give you the baseline of where you stand, and then you would go through the training and then you would take the post-test and see where you are now opposed to where you were later. The training for diversity is just always an ongoing situation. And consider team building exercises. Some ideas that came to mind were an obstacle course or the human knot. This is totally up to the employees if they want to be a part of it. And of course, there are opportunities for the employees to give out ideas for team bonding. I think it's just very important to build the trust of the people that you're working with and understand who they are as a person. And then I think that's beneficial too, because not only are you learning new things about people in the workplace, but you also can use it in your everyday life. And I think that will just be all around beneficial for you. So some policy is training must be completed every 6 months. That way everything is up to the date and no one can say, well, I didn't know that, because you've had updated training on it and you know how to handle situations. Team building is optional for the employees, but higher up people in the company must attend at least 4. That way, so then the people that are in charge, they get to work with different groups of people all the time, but they also can bring their ideas from other attending, like team building opportunities, and use it in that group and just kind of get everyone feel more comfortable with each other and feel comfortable with their higher up people. And incentives for completing these, maybe have some pay during their time at the team buildings and the trainings. And if not possible, then maybe just supplying meals for everyone and just make sure everyone feels included.
So here we have a summary of our excluded groups. Women and minority races are at a disproportionate disadvantage when it comes to the hiring process and gaining promotion after employment. Lawsuits have become a major problem for the company, as Dan had stated in the previous slide. This usually occurred when potential employees feel their rights had been violated during the hiring process or employment. And corporate and upper management have been proactive in taking steps to address these problems within the company.
So with barriers to inclusion, unconscious bias is the main barrier. And it's something that happens when people make judgments, snap decisions without really thinking about them. So when you're doing hiring or when you're doing promotions, you're making decisions without knowing that you're like judging people. So this can happen with all of the minorities. The Black and African American community can face racism. So Walmart as a corporation, it would be hard for them to investigate every single promotion to make sure that there wasn't racism. So this is a barrier to inclusion. The Native American and Native Alaskan community face socioeconomic disadvantages. So they're one of the poorest communities in America. And a lot of times when somebody is like doesn't dress as nicely, it doesn't have the resources that other people have, they're less likely to be able to be promoted as well. The Hispanic and Latino community, discrimination and hate is based on immigration. So a lot of people are afraid of immigration, they're xenophobic, stuff like that, that could prevent them from being promoted. And then women may face all of the above, plus sexism as a form of discrimination. So women are Black and African American, women are Native American, women are Hispanic and Latino, but they also will face sexism as not getting paid as much and stuff like that.
So now I'm finally going to go over the benefits for having diversity programs. For one thing, employees will be more educated on diversity and therefore they'll be more aware of the problems that can be associated with it. Employees will feel more included and they can build stronger relationships with other employees, which is going to result in more chemistry, which is more effective work because everyone's comfortable with each other. And Walmart would receive more applications due to a welcoming environment. People would want to work for Walmart if they know that it is welcoming and all-inclusive. And that's it.
Thank you for listening to our PowerPoint. I hope that everybody has a great and safe summer.